When car makers launch an all-new model during a world premiere or a world debut, it takes usually between 2 years to around 6 months for that same model to arrive here in the Philippines. That's the normal waiting time we usually have. Well, Nissan is about to blow that record well out of the water with the 370Z, because this thing took 11 years to actually get here officially in showrooms. Is it worth the wait? Well, Nissan tossed us the keys not just to any 370Z, but the NISMO version. Let's go take it out for a drive and see if the wait really was worth it. Fans of the Nissan brand will know exactly what the Z is all about. This is supposed to be the agile member of the Nissan performance line, of which you have the GTR on top, which is all-conquering performance, and then you have the Z, which is the one that likes to dance with you a bit on the limit. That's why internationally it's known as the 370Z, but over in its home market of Japan, it's known as the Fair Lady Z, because my fair lady, you want to dance with it. This version is the 370Z NISMO, and it takes that same formula a bit higher. Now, as you can see, the 370Z has all the classic hallmarks of a front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car. This is a big contrast to the Nissan GTR, which is a bit more brutish, a bit more macho in terms of overall performance and the way it looks. Now, here's an interesting tidbit with this car. The final design was actually done by one of our Phil-Am friends, Mr. Randy Rodriguez. Hey, Randy. For the NISMO version, Nissan, or actually NISMO, elevated the look of the 370Z significantly. It's got a different bumper, looks far more aerodynamic, far more aggressive. It's got the badging there. It's got the 19-inch raised forged aluminum wheels, the black mirrors, a different rear spoiler compared to the older 370Z NISMO, and a few other bits and pieces here and there. Overall, it looks pretty menacing. It looks pretty impressive. So here we are inside the 370Z NISMO. The first things that you would really notice are these two Recaro seats. They're very racy, they're very expensive, and they're really, really nice. The only thing you will have to note is that adjustment is, well, via knobs, even for the backrest. So if you're like, if you're looking for a power adjustment on the seat, this one does not have it. This is proper performance car stuff. The steering wheel, it's very nice. It's got Alcantara on where you put your hands. It's got the center indicator here. You've got NISMO gauges in front of you. It's very classic. They didn't try to touch it up with any kind of fancy displays or anything. Just a nice red NISMO gauge. You've got a triple gauge cluster on top of the dash, but it's not really a triple gauge cluster because you have oil pressure and you have your voltmeter, and then you have a clock. And now here's where it gets a little bit different compared to the other Zs we've driven before. There is no audio system here. It's just a glove box. It's just a little compartment there where it should have been. Instead, your audio system is here. This is a 2-DIN audio unit, touchscreen. It's got Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto. We'll give it a try later. You've got your climate control system here, and in typical Nissan fashion, it's very powerful. And your 7-speed automatic gear selector here. The audio system is done by Bose, and it sounds pretty good when it's working properly. I'll tell you more about that later. Now over in the back, well, you do get a little bit of trunk space. It is a lift back, and there is a tonneau cover that you can kind of remove or retract. So here's a tightly packed engine bay of the Nissan Nismo 370Z. It has a 3.7-liter V6 under the hood. And as you can tell, of course, your eyes are drawn very much to the big 4-point or 3-point strut bar that straddles over the engine. This engine makes 349 metric horsepower in the Nismo version. In the regular 370Z version, it makes about 12 horsepower less at around 337-ish, thereabouts. It is, of course, rear-wheel drive, which is why it's mounted longitudinally. And it's mounted onto a 7-speed automatic gearbox, again, driving the rear wheels. How will it handle? How will it perform? Well, let's find out a little later when we go up to the mountains. All right, so now we're finally driving the new 370Z NISMO. And first off, what we can tell you is that the AC is really strong. No matter what temperature I set it at, it's really, really cold in here. So that's one thing Nissan's been known for a lot of their models, particularly here in the Philippines. The second thing you'll notice is that these seats, they really are body hugging. They really hold you in place, but in traffic, it's not too bad. It's actually pretty comfortable, considering that these are very much firm Recaro racing style seats that you have a manual adjustment. It's not one of those luxurious power affairs when it comes to seating for the driver, but they do feel good and they do really look good. In a lot of the 370Zs I've driven before, the audio system was one of those integrated units that had a control panel here. In this model, they've changed that out. The issue here is whoever installed it didn't do a very good job, because the audio controls on the steering wheel don't work. The Bluetooth is problematic, and one speaker is dead, and there's static coming through the other speakers. So what makes the 370Z NISMO more special than the standard models? For one, you've got the better look. It's not just a body kit. They've honed it to be a bit more aerodynamic, taking from a lot of their motorsport experience over in Japan and beyond, really. And then you've got the nicer steering. And mind you, we're not talking about just the steering wheel, but it's the weight of the steering itself. It feels like a proper sports car or performance car, actually. You've got the nicer, louder, and prouder exhaust system in this vehicle. So when you try to rev it up a bit more, like by kicking down a few gears using these paddles, well, you really enjoy yourself. The only thing I really would have wanted for the Nismo Z is a manual version. Yeah, this one has an automatic, and good as the automatic is, nothing is as engaging as a proper 6-speed manual gearbox. That's just the way it is, but unfortunately, this model, the one we're driving, doesn't have it. A place like this is where the 370Z really belongs. It likes to look for corners, for straights. It needs to show off what it can do. And here, you can really extract as much performance as you can, within reason, within the laws, of course. But even when you're not really going that fast, it already feels direct. When you go a bit faster, that's when you realize why the name of this model is called Fair Lady in Japan. Right now, it's a bit tricky because of the rain and all the traffic, but it's really, really enjoyable. It feels direct. It feels almost old school, which I think is the real charm behind this 370Z. A lot of newer sports cars now, I wouldn't really say sanitized, but they focus a bit too much on the technology, on coming up with sport modes and different maps for the engine and the suspension. In the Z NISMO, it's just one setting. That's NISMO. And it's up to you whether you actually enjoy it or not. That's gonna seal the deal for something like the 370Z NISMO. If you want something a little less direct, a little softer, a little more comfortable, then there's the standard 370Z non-NISMO. But for those who want to really enjoy dancing with a car on the limit, the Fair Lady Z, 370Z may be the right car for you. It doesn't feel sanitized. It doesn't try to soften up the experience for you. Wow. See? That's me just going 50 kilometers per hour on Marilake. Now, a lot of sports and performance models have entered the Philippine market in the last couple of years, in the last 10 years. This is just the latest of them. It just so happens to be a bit more old school than the rest of them. Will it convince, let's say, buyers of the Supra to try it out instead? Well, that's really up to them, but in reality, this does not cost anywhere near a Supra. It's at 3.888 million for this Nismo version, which you can only buy at the Nissan High Performance Center over in Quezon Avenue. Is it worth it? Well, that's really all up to you. We like it as it is for its old school thrills. We just wanted to have a manual gearbox. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more reviews, you can check out our YouTube channel for more cars and SUVs and trucks and everything else in between. You can visit AutoIndustriya.com for the latest in car reviews and news. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as on Twitter.